Dr. Mara Patel stepped off the diplomatic cruiser onto the polished marble floor of Celestica's grand hall. The chamber's high ceiling arched overhead like the inside of a silvery shell, and streaks of violet light shimmered along the walls. Courtiers in flowing robes of pale blue and soft green drifted through the hall, their skin glowing faintly with bioluminescence. Mara paused to steady her breath. She was the only human among a delegation of starfaring species, all here to negotiate peaceful trade routes with the Luminary Empire. The air hummed with the soft thrum of alien machinery and whispered conversations in languages Mara barely recognized. She clutched her datapad and adjusted the mutator on her wrist, a small device that translated her words into the Luminary tongue. Officially, she was here as a xenolinguist, ensuring clear communication between humans and the Luminary. Unofficially, she was terrified of making a mistake in front of the alien queen herself. At the far end of the hall, beneath an arch that glowed like liquid pearl, stood Queen Orithra. She was taller than any human, her skin rippling in patterns like oil on water. Her eyes were two opals of midnight blue, shining with quiet power. Around her neck lay a necklace of dancing lights, each orb a symbol, a promise, or perhaps a secret. Mara's heart pounded. She knew that protocol dictated she wait until summoned. Instead, she found herself drawn closer, step by careful step. Mara's colleague, Ambassador Joel Tarek of the Veridonians, was already knee-deep in pleasantries. He bowed low, green scales flickering in the light. "Your Radiance," he began, voice resonant in Milo, the common trade language. "We are honored to discuss the exchange of rare metals and knowledge between our worlds." His words, while respectful, lacked the drama befitting a royal audience. He smiled too bravely, as if trying to charm the room into forgiving a small, diplomatic misstep. Mara watched the queen listen, silent and still. Then, halfway through Tarek's speech, the mutator on Mara's wrist buzzed gently. It reminded her that her own turn at the microphone was nearing. Ambassador Tarek finished with a polite nod and stepped aside. The hall fell into a soft hush. Now it was her moment. Her throat suddenly dry, Mara stepped forward. She swallowed hard, then spoke into the microphone. "Your Radiance," she said, evenly, careful to choose the right formal tone. "I offer greetings from Earth. We come with hands open in friendship and curiosity." Her words were calm, precise translations of her carefully prepared speech. The queen inclined her head, as if satisfied, but Mara noticed a faint smile flicker across her features. Beneath the calm formality, Mara's mind raced. The next lines of her speech included a delicate joke, something about meteor showers that scatter light like stardust on a dark canvas. It was meant to be charming, a small human flourish, to lighten the mood. But a misfire could turn polite amusement into offense. Mara cleared her throat. "And if I may be so bold," she continued, "I hope our meeting brings more light than a meteor shower, though even the sky's fireworks fade too soon, while strong friendship lasts forever." The court was silent. Mara realized her pun might have sounded odd in literal Luminary. She waited, heart in her throat. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the queen's opal eyes widened. A low trill of laughter, rich and musical, echoed through the hall. It was unlike any sound Mara had ever heard, deep, resonant, and full of genuine delight. The courtiers stiffened, then relaxed. Some began to murmur, while others simply stared at their queen in awe. Queen Orithra stepped forward, her cloak of shifting light trailing behind her. She raised a hand, palm toward Mara. "Your words sparkle like the stars themselves," she said in perfect Milo, voice rippling through the chamber. "You compare our joining to a meteor shower, and yet you speak of something that never fades. Such thoughtfulness merits more than mere words." Mara blinked. She had meant the meteor joke as a light flourish, not a profound declaration. And yet here was the queen, treating it like a promise. Gale of panic flared in Mara's chest. Was she expected to respond? What if this went badly? Your Radiance," Mara stammered, bowing lower than she intended. I only meant to say, a jest well made, Orithra interrupted softly, stepping still closer. In my tongue, humor shared with one sovereign binds two souls. In that moment you honored me. She paused, letting the silence stretch. By ancient luminary custom, a bond formed in laughter is as sacred as any treaty. Thus I accept your jest as a vow of partnership. Gasps swept through the hall. Mara felt rooted to the spot. A vow? Partnership? She looked at her fellow envoys. Ambassador Tarek's mouth hung open. A tall Krillian noble paled behind her. The Queen's words had fallen on ears unprepared, and the implications rippled outward like the wake of a comet. Mara swallowed, trying to steady her voice. Your Radiance, she began again, more carefully. I value this moment, truly, but I did not intend an oath. No matter, Orithra said, her laughter softening the weight of her words. Perhaps fate guides us toward union of minds and hearts. I shall celebrate this bond with the highest honors. Prepare yourself, Dr. Mara Patel. We will explore ceremonies that mark the beginning of our shared journey. The courtiers erupted into applause. Some bowed again. Others hurried off to write scrolls or send messages. The hall buzzed with new energy, as if a grand celebration were already underway. Mara could only stand, stunned, as Queen Orithra smiled at her. In the corner, Ambassador Joel Tarek cleared his throat. Your Radiance, he said, voice cracking. Perhaps we should adjourn to the council chamber to draft the preliminary articles of friendship, or partnership. Everyone turned toward him, eager to follow. Mara realized she was still clutching her datapad so tightly her knuckles were white. She forced herself to relax her grip. Step by step, she followed the Queen and the ambassadors out of the grand hall, leaving behind echoes of laughter and the first sparks of a story that would shake two worlds. As the doors sealed behind her, Mara dared to meet Orithra's gaze. The Queen's smile had lost its formal edge. Now it was simple, radiant, curious. Come, Orithra said, voice low enough for only Mara to hear. Let us talk more about your world. And about mine. Mara nodded, heart fluttering. She had come to Luminara Prime to negotiate treaties. Instead, she had accidentally promised herself to an alien queen. And though fear still twisted in her stomach, a small flame of excitement ignited. She realized that, joke or no, this moment might be the start of something extraordinary. Word spread through the gleaming streets of Celestica like starlight across a dark sky. Whispers followed Dr. Mara Patel wherever she went. Market stalls closed early as vendors gathered around holoscreens to replay the moment she joked with Queen Orithra. Scholars paused in the floating libraries. Children pressed their faces against shuttle windows to watch the human xenolinguist pass. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the woman who had bound herself, by ancient custom, to the alien queen. Inside the palace, the mood was a flurry of excitement and caution. Palace ministers in high collars examined dusty scrolls and holographic records. They debated whether the Luminari should honor the accidental vow or find a loophole. Old laws said that a jest made in laughter could never be broken. New voices argued for change, pointing out that humans did not share the same traditions. Arguments echoed through marble halls, mixing with the soft hum of crystal chandeliers. Mara sat in a quiet antechamber, her heart pounding as she watched. Courtiers hurried past. A young aide offered her tea in a cup of glowing porcelain. She took a slow sip, tasting sweet petals and a faint note of starlight. Her datapad lay open on her lap, filled with notes on trade routes and diplomatic measures. Now those notes felt useless. Every sentence reminded her that she had promised herself in marriage to an alien queen. Her mind raced with questions. What did the vow truly mean? Did it bind her to live on Luminara Prime? Would she have to learn every custom, every song, every ceremony? What if she could not love Orithra in the way the Luminari expected? She had studied many alien cultures, but none had ever included binding marriage jokes. Now, it was not a joke. Outside, rumors took shape like living creatures. Some said the wedding would be a grand festival under twin moons. Others whispered that humans and Luminari would form a new royal line, ruling two worlds together. A few, hardy souls claimed the joke was an insult and that the queen had trapped a human for her own amusement. None of these stories comforted Mara. Late that evening, she slipped away from the palace servants to explore the city. Celestica was famous for its floating gardens, where bioluminescent vines curled around glass domes. She walked beneath lanterns that glowed in shades of violet and teal. Each step echoed on the smooth walkway. She wondered if her footsteps moved her closer to destiny or disaster. In a small courtyard, she paused by a fountain that sprayed shimmering mist. The water caught the light and scattered tiny rainbows across her face. A patrol of luminous guards passed by, their uniforms crisp and formal. One of them bowed quickly when he saw her. "Dr. Patel," he said softly, "your presence is requested by the Queen at dawn." Mara's stomach twisted. "Already?" She nodded, voice caught in her throat. The guard turned and floated away. She touched her chest where the promise still felt like a weight on her heart. Then she let out a slow breath and raised her head. She was a diplomat. She could learn, adapt, and speak truth. At dawn, the palace gates opened on the dew-bright gardens. Queen Aurethra waited beside a pool of mirrored water, dressed in robes that whispered of moonlight and metal. Her hair was braided with strands of light, each glow petal shifting in color. Her smile was calm, but her eyes held curiosity. Behind her, two ministers hovered with scrolls and quills. "Dr. Patel," the Queen said in a soft, rippling voice. "Come, let us speak of our bond. I have learned much of your people. I wish to teach you our rights." Mara bowed her head and stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "Your Radiance, I am eager to understand. I wish to learn your customs and serve our peoples well." Aurethra nodded and gestured to a low dais beside the pool. They sat on cushions of woven crystal threads. A breeze rose, carrying the scent of night-blooming lilies. The Queen unrolled a scroll of pale green light. Symbols danced along it, alive with meaning. "These are the rites of laughter," Aurethra explained. "First, the bond must be acknowledged before the ancestor holograms. They hold our shared history." She tapped the scroll. A soft pulse of images rose from the water, forming floating holograms of past Luminari queens and kings. Their faces shimmered, lips moving in silent greeting. Aurethra bowed her head respectfully. Mara watched, awe mingled with fear. She had read about these ancestors in textbooks. They were said to judge the worthiness of any union. "And then?" she asked. "Then comes the sharing of dreams," the Queen continued. "We exchange visions of our pasts, our hopes, our fears. This seals the bond of understanding." Aurethra paused. "Only after this can we celebrate with feasts and gifts." Mara's mind raced. She had little time to prepare. "Your Radiance," she said, choosing each word. "May I ask for guidance? How do I share my dreams in a way that honors your people?" Aurethra's smile grew warmer. "You speak with humility and respect. That is enough. But I will aid you. Tonight, at the Crystal Spire, you will stand beneath the memory pillar. There your thoughts will be guided into visions we both can see." Mara nodded, relief and dread mingling in her chest. She had to appear confident. "Thank you. I will be there." A herald arrived then, his robes flowing. He bowed low. "My Queen, the Council of Ministers awaits your counsel on the trade accords. They grow restless." Aurethra stood, the floating lights of her necklace trailing like fireflies. "Very well," she said. Turning to Mara, she added, "Attend the council with me. Show them that our bond opens new paths, not closes old ones." Mara rose, smoothing her robe. Her heart thudded at the thought. Council chambers were formal, strict, and filled with stern faces. She had to prove that her marriage could help both empires. They walked together through silent halls, courtiers parting in reverence. Whispers followed their steps. Some watched with hope, others with doubt. Mara kept her eyes forward, listening to the Queen's graceful stride. At the council doors, Orethra paused and looked back at Mara. "Remember," she said softly, "you are not alone in this. I stand with you." Mara's breath caught. She nodded, finding unexpected strength. She glanced at Orethra's confident silhouette, feeling the warmth of the invitation. This bond born of a joke now carried the hopes of two worlds. Hand in hand, human and queen stepped into the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. Inside, ministers rose and bowed, their faces impassive. The moment had come to turn rumors into reality, or to shatter both. Mara straightened her back, lifted her gaze, and prepared to speak. In that instant, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever else might happen, she would face it beside Queen Orethra. And perhaps in the shared light of two worlds, they might find a bond stronger than any ancient law. Over the next several days, Dr. Mara Patel and Queen Orethra met wherever quiet moments could be found. They walked through floating garden terraces, each step revealing a new blossom that glowed softly in the dim light. They sat on benches, carved from living crystal, its surface warm beneath their hands. In these moments, formality slipped away, and they spoke as two curious souls rather than ruler and envoy. Mara shared stories of Earth's great libraries, where humans recorded knowledge on paper and now in digital memory. She described how poets painted pictures with words and how laughter could spread like wildfire in a crowded theater. Orethra listened with rapt attention, her throat vibrating in a soft trill of delight. In return, Orethra taught Mara the gentle art of luminary light weaving, a form of painting made with tiny motes of bioluminescence. Mara's first attempts flickered and died before her eyes, but the Queen's patient guidance brought each display into soft, living color. One evening they gathered in the crystal hall, where walls of pure gemstone reflected moonlight in 1,000 rainbow streaks. Orethra led Mara to a central dais supporting a single, clear orb, the dream mirror. The orb pulsed gently, attuned to the mind of its observer. "Tonight," the Queen said, "we will share our dreams." She placed her slender hand on the orb, and instantly the room filled with floating images. A vast forest on a world of deep green, where her mother had danced under starfire, a lonely throne overlooking silent seas. Mara watched, her chest tightening, with empathy. When it was her turn, she hesitated, then put her hand on the orb. Memories streamed forth. A childhood spent in a small Indian town, siblings chasing fireflies on hot summer nights, her first taste of freedom, standing on a rooftop and watching city lights flicker like stars. The images swirled and faded, leaving Mara trembling slightly. Orethra reached out and brushed her fingers against Mara's palm, grounding her. "Your heart is brave and open," the Queen whispered. After the sharing of dreams, the bond between them deepened beyond words. They laughed over simple things. A mistranslated idiom that made Orethra snort with surprise, a clumsy human dance move that left Mara breathless with laughter. They challenged each other to friendly contests. Orethra in quantum poetry against Mara's best attempts at luminary sonnets. Neither could conquer the other, but each contest brought new respect and delight. Outside the palace, courtiers took notice. Many supported the match, believing it would seal a golden age of cooperation. Young nobles scribbled sketches of the pair, showing Mara in a gown of shimmering light beside Orethra's regal form. Merchants touted Queen's joke souvenirs, glowing, trinkets shaped like comets, sold to tourists hungry for a piece of history. Still, whispers of dissent lingered in shadowed corridors. Some ministers muttered that this was madness, a human far too weak to stand beside a sovereign. Others feared that if Mara's loyalty lay first with Earth, the luminary empire might be led astray. Despite the rumblings, Mara and Orethra pressed on. One afternoon they visited the mechanics' wing, a vast chamber where engineers shaped starship engines from living crystals. Orethra explained warp field theory in patient detail, and Mara showed her hollow schematics of Earth's latest shuttles. Side by side, They sketched plans for a new vessel, one that could carry humans and luminary among the stars in equal comfort. The engineers watched in awe as the Queen and her human companion debated technical specifications as equals. That evening, Mara slipped into her quarters, heart full but worry creeping at the edges. She sifted through messages from Earth, inquiries about the treaty, congratulatory notes, and urgent requests for updates. She cared deeply for her home world, but her thoughts turned to Orithra. She wondered if she could ever truly fit into Luminari society, or if she would always be an outsider. A soft knock at the door drew her back. Orithra stood there, unannounced, her eyes gentle. "May I come in?" she asked. Mara nodded, moving aside. Orithra closed the door and crossed the room, her robe trailing light. She sat on the edge of Mara's desk, gaze fixed on the human's face. "Your mind is troubled," she said softly. "Tell me." Mara hesitated, then sighed. "I worry I cannot be what your people need. I am skilled in language, but I know little of ancient rites. I fear I will disappoint you." Her voice broke on the last word. Orithra reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind Mara's ear. "You have already given me so much," she said. "Your kindness, your laughter, your willingness to learn, they matter more than any ancient ritual. I do not ask you to be perfect, only to be true." She paused. "Let us face the future together, step by step." Mara's eyes glistened. She had faced stressful negotiations and delicate translations, but this honest exchange, felt more vital than any treaty. She nodded, letting a small smile break free. Orithra's hand slipped into hers, warm and steady. In that moment, two hearts beat in quiet harmony. Beyond palace walls, the Empire hummed with anticipation. Some still doubted, but many believed that this friendship, born of a misfired joke, might guide them into a new era of shared discovery. As Maya and Orithra sat hand in hand beneath the pale glow of twin moons, galaxies seemed to stretch out, before them, full of promise. Together they had crossed the divide between species, forging a bond as real as any written law. And though the path ahead held challenges, neither would walk it alone. The morning sun rose over Luminara Prime, its pale light filtering through crystalline spires. Dr. Mara Patel stood on the balcony of the royal suite, watching the city awaken. Below, couriers wove among crowds carrying gold-inked invitations to the upcoming union rites. It felt as if all of Celestica stood on tiptoes, waiting for the moment when human and queen would stand side by side in an ancient ceremony. Inside the suite, Queen Orithra reviewed documents laid out on a table, of living quartz. Ministerial seals marked treaties and trade plans, but a single scroll stood apart, the preliminary treaty of alliances between Earth and the Luminary Empire. Orithra's fingers brushed over the delicate script. She looked up at Mara and offered a small, encouraging smile. "They have added conditions," she said softly. "Earth demands we sign a full political treaty before any personal vows are finalized." Mara nodded, closing her datapad. "Their caution is understandable," she replied. "They fear our people binding too closely without clear benefits." Her mind raced. If the political treaty failed, it could dissolve their personal bond. She felt a pang of fear at the thought of letting Orithra down. That afternoon, they entered the United Earth Council chamber aboard the diplomatic cruiser. In orbit, the room's transparent walls offered a view of the glowing planet below. Representatives sat in rigid rows, diplomats in tailored suits, military advisors in decorated uniforms, and observers in neutral robes. At the head of the table, chairwoman, Linway tapped a gavel of clear steel. "Dr. Patel, Queen Orithra," she began, voice formal. "We welcome your presence. Let us discuss the terms of alliance." Mara cleared her throat. She knew the political complexities, resource sharing, mutual defense, cultural exchanges. Each clause had to protect Earth's interests without offending Luminari pride. Orithra sat beside her, regal and poised, her cloak of light rippling as she shifted. When Mara spoke, her voice carried confidence born of deep preparation. She laid out the benefits: access to Luminari terraforming technology, safe trade corridors, and joint research into faster-than-light communication. These terms, Mara concluded, will serve both our worlds. As the council debated, Orithra rose and addressed the assembly in solemn tones. "Our queen's word is her bond," she said. "If you doubt our personal commitment, witness that bond through shared governance." She turned to Mara, eyes bright with trust. The room fell silent. Even hardened advisors felt the weight of that promise. After hours of deliberation, the council agreed to a provisional treaty. Both sides would begin cultural exchanges immediately, with a full political treaty to follow after their union ceremony. Back on Luminara Prime, a new challenge awaited. The High Chamber of Luminari Elders gathered in the Hall of Ancestors, their holographic forms flickering at the edges of existence. They were the spirits of past monarchs, guardians of tradition. Orithra approached the dais, Mara at her side. A hush fell as the highest elder, Emperor Zeril I, spoke in a voice like distant thunder. "You break sacred custom, Orithra. A union born of a joke is unworthy." Orithra's light-steeled courage shone. "Ancestor," she replied, calmly, "we honor tradition by renewing it. Our shared vow, though born in laughter, carries truth. Dr. Patel's heart is pure and her spirit committed." She gestured to Mara. "Judge her deeds, not the words that bound us." The chamber trembled with murmurs. The elders conferred in silent lights. Finally, Zeril's form flickered and settled. "Very well. We grant our blessing," he intoned. "But you must pass one final test." A silver door opened behind the dais, revealing the moonless cavern, a labyrinth beneath Luminara's surface. In legend, only those of true bond could navigate its shifting tunnels to retrieve the night flower, a bloom that only opens in darkness. "Return with the night flower," Zeril commanded. "Then our union will be written in stone." Late that night, Mara and Orithra prepared for the journey. Engineers provided light-weaving torches and maps etched on crystal plates. Faint tremors hinted at the cavern's shifting nature. Mara's heart pounded. She pressed a hand to Orithra's arm. "I'm with you," the queen whispered, and Mara felt a warmth settle in her chest. Entering the moonless cavern, they stepped into black silence pierced only by their torches' soft glow. The walls pulsed with latent energy. Pathways split and rejoined as if the rock itself remembered ancient steps and then forgot them again. They paused at a fork, where crystalline stalactites dripped glowing sap. Orithra touched the sap, letting it trail down her fingers. "Follow the living light," she murmured, and on her cue, the small sap droplets flickered toward the left passage. Mara followed, trusting the queen's instinct. They navigated narrow corridors, crossed underground, streams of liquid starlight, and climbed steep, slippery ledges. At one turn, a cavern opened into a vast chamber where shadows moved like restless ghosts. Mara's torch wavered. She heard a soft trill of doubt in her own mind. Was she leading the queen astray? Orithra squeezed her hand. "You are brave," she said, voice steady. "Together we find our path." At last they reached the heart of the cavern. In a pool of still, mirror-dark water, a single night flower bloomed on a floating stalk. Its petals were black as void, edges tipped with pale silver. The bloom pulsed in time with their hearts. Orithra kneeled at the water's edge. She offered her hand to Mara. "Will you accept this flower as proof of our bond?" Mara knelt beside her, heart full. "With all that I am," she said, her voice echoing in the silent chamber. Orithra plucked the night flower and placed it gently in Mara's palm. Instantly, the cavern walls shifted, the passages realigning behind them. The queen's torches brightened, lighting the way back to the surface. When they emerged, dawnlight filtered through the cavern mouth. Palace guards awaited, kneeling as Mara and Orithra returned hand in hand. The night flower, clutched in Mara's palm, glowed softly, proof of their trials completed. Across Celestica, bells rang in celebration. The Alliance Treaty and the Sacred Union now went forward together. Mara realized that trials had tested them, but each challenge had drawn them closer. They had faced political caution and ancient tradition, fear and darkness, and emerged united. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the city, Queen Orethra and Dr. Mara Patel walked toward the ceremony dais, their bond sealed not by mistake or law alone, but by shared courage and trust. And in the gathered crowd, two worlds held their breath, ready to witness a new dawn. The morning sky over Celestica was painted in soft shades of lavender and rose. Citizens and dignitaries gathered on the Rainbow Arch, a bridge of living crystal that spanned two palace towers. Banners of Earth and Luminara fluttered side by side. As the first human-alien wedding in galactic history, it drew observers from dozens of star systems. Dr. Mara Patel stood at the foot of the arch, her gown woven from shimmering threads of moonlight. It caught every ray of the rising sun, scattering gentle rainbows across the crystal floor. She held the nightflower in one hand, its silvery petals still aglow. Around her, the human delegation, ambassadors, scientists, and cultural envoys watched, with proud, anxious smiles. Across the span, Queen Orethra waited on a dais carved from pale quartz. Her regal robes flowed like liquid starfire. Her hair, braided with strands of bioluminescent vines, glowed softly in time with her steady breathing. At her side, the Council of Ministers and the Ancestor holograms waited in respectful silence, their forms wavering like mist. As the crowd hushed, a Luminari herald stepped forward and spoke in a clear, musical voice. Today, under twin moons and rising sun, we witness the union of Dr. Mara Patel of Earth and Queen Orethra of Luminara. In this bond, we celebrate the power of friendship, laughter, and shared hope. Mara took a deep breath and began her vows. Your radiance. When I first spoke those words, I did not know what I was starting. I meant only a pun to bring lightness to our meeting. But in your laughter, I found true welcome. You have taught me to see beyond my own world. You have shown me courage and kindness. Today, I promise to stand by your side, to learn your ways, to share my heart and mind. I pledge friendship, respect, and laughter for all our days. The crowd stirred with emotion. Orethra's opal eyes shone as never before. When Mara finished, the queen stepped down from her dais and took Mara's hand. Orethra spoke in her own tongue first, then translated each line into Milo for the human guests. Dr. Mara Patel, you honored me with a jest that became a vow. You walked through darkness to bring a nightflower to the light. You listened with compassion and spoke with truth. I pledge to honor your world as I honor my own. I promise to protect you, to learn from you, and to share all that I am. With this ring of woven light I bind our fates. From within Orethra's robe, a slender ring appeared, crafted of pure luminescent crystal. She slipped it onto Mara's finger. The ring glowed softly, its light spreading through Mara's hand and arm, then up to her heart. Mara felt warmth flood her body, as if the sun itself had touched her soul. Orethra nodded to the herald. The herald raised his staff, and a soft pulse of light washed over the arch. Above them, the sky darkened for a moment, revealing the twin moons even though it was daytime. The moons shone like guardian eyes, watching over the couple. When the moons faded, and the sun brightened once more, the crowd burst into cheers and applause. Music rose from unseen corners, a blend of human strings and luminary chimes. Dancers moved along the arch, their steps weaving patterns of light beneath the couple's feet. Mara and Orethra turned to each other and shared a gentle smile. Then, hand in hand, they took their first steps together across the rainbow arch. Each stride left a trail of softly glowing footprints that faded in time with the music. At the center of the arch, a long crystal table held gifts from both worlds. There, delegations from Earth and Luminara presented offerings. Earth's silver-threaded tapestries depicting the Milky Way. Luminara's delicate sculptures grown from living crystal. Mara accepted each gift with grace while Orithra bowed in thanks. Each offering symbolized cooperation, creativity, and trust. When the procession reached the far side, Orithra raised her free hand to the sky. "Let this union be the dawn of new exploration," she proclaimed. "May our worlds learn from each other and travel the stars together." At her words, the crowd erupted again, and drones overhead released petals of bioluminescent flowers that drifted down like gentle rain. Humans in the audience gasped in wonder, reaching out to catch the glowing petals. Luminari children laughed and twirled as the petals settled in their hair. Later, in the great banquet hall, tables groaned, under dishes from both planets, spiced starfruit from Earth, glowing nebula soup from Luminara, and shared desserts of crystallized honey and moon sugar. Mara and Orithra sat side by side at the head table, toasting to their new life together. As Mara sipped her drink, she caught Orithra's eye and saw pure joy shining there. Between courses, delegates rose to speak. Ambassador Joel Tarek spoke. "First, unity through laughter," he said, smiling at the couple, "is a powerful thing. Today we celebrate not only a marriage, but a promise of cooperation across the galaxy." Next, a human scientist described plans for joint starship projects. A Luminari poet recited a sonnet of light, dedicated to Mara's bravery and Orithra's vision. When the banquet ended, the couple made their farewell to the guests and retired to a private chamber in the palace. There, they found the Star Cruiser, Lightbringer, newly converted to hold both species in comfort, waiting in the hangar beyond the gardens. The ship's hull shimmered with living crystal plating, and its engines hummed with promise. Orithra turned to Mara and took both her hands. "Our people will watch as we journey into the unknown," she said. "Let this ship carry our hopes." Mara nodded, feeling the weight of every eye upon them. "Together," she replied, "we will chart new worlds." They walked down to the hangar floor, where crews from both civilizations completed the final checks. Engineers and pilots stood ready, proud to serve under their joint command. As Mara and Orithra approached the ship, crew members cheered, waving Earth flags and Luminari lanterns. On the bridge of the Lightbringer, Orithra took the pilot's seat, and Mara stood at the navigation console. Side by side, they activated the ship's engines. The living crystal beneath Mara's fingertips pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Orithra's light-weaving aura enveloped the bridge in a gentle glow. "Ready," Orithra said. "Engage." Mara pressed the final control. Outside the viewport, stars blurred and stretched into tunnel lines. The twin moons of Luminara faded behind them, and Celestica's spires grew smaller. As the Lightbringer jumped into the next star system, Mara looked at Orithra and smiled. They had begun with a joke. They had faced ceremony, politics, and danger. Now they embarked on their greatest adventure. Two worlds united, bound by laughter and love, sailing into the infinite mystery of space.